Hey guys, welcome back to part 2. Well, as you saw in part 1, I was working on all the belts and getting them off, loosened up, so I've gotten them all taken off of the big hub here. I will show you right quick. On the hydro, I was having trouble getting that draw bolt broke loose, and I never could get the dumb thing broke loose. It is seized up in there. So what I had to do, I wrapped the chain around the step platform right there, hooked a come along onto it, and took my 15-inch crescent wrench, and I've got you on top of my head. Let me see if I can get you where you can see. Hooked the crescent wrench down in there, pinched down good and tighten this hook into that, and then literally had to take and just pull it up. That way it would loosen it, so it's still under spring tension. That's why I got that punch through the crescent wrench handle. That way the come along can't fly off the end of it. And so that's working perfect. Okay, now back to this big hub. I don't know if you can hear it or not. Maybe I'll turn my fan off and let you listen. This thing here, that's the dampener or the little shock absorber for the unload belt. But when you spin this around, if you can hear that rumble, yeah, that's not good. That's what I was hearing when the machine was running. That's a dry bearing sound. So I'm gonna get my impact. We gotta take these bolts here off, and that faceplate will come off. I've already taken off the zip ties that has this wire held in place, and so it'll just feed down through there like that once the plate comes out. Like I said in part 1, I'm not going to be showing taking every bolt and that kind of stuff out. That just adds a whole bunch more time to the videos. But I'll show you what all I'm doing as I go. Okay, here we are on the last one. Just got to wash taking that thing off. Okay. It appears to be stuck to it. You just don't want that thing to come flying off there and drop down, smash your foot. And same thing again. When you take these off, make sure you put a mark right there. This one already has it, and so it has been off before. So there's a little white, looks like some kind of like a paint stick or something like that. So that's all you need, a simple white mark across there, or pink or blue or red or some way to mark that, and you're good to go. Okay, trying to get this off here without having it fall off is easier said than done. So I'm going to take and put one bolt back in, leave it loose, and then pry it from the face of that big drum. Okay, that bolt's fitted in. Now it can't go anywhere. There we go, just like that. And now that's off center, it wants to spin. Like I say, that just watch your fingers. Go ahead, pinch them and smash it, or smash a hand. Okay, there's your wiring harness. That's all good. There we go. It's got some weight to it, I can tell you that much. There we go. Okay, that's the faceplate. Well, faceplate and, of course, the belt pulley drive as well for the unload auger. There's what it looks like from the back. That line right there is where your wiring harness falls into. Okay, that can just sit right there. That's why I say if you can use a forklift with a pallet, it's a great spot to be able to set all your parts and that kind of stuff out on. And it's just all right up here where you can get to it. Okay, here is your clutch armature. And of course it's just a simple electromagnet. In fact, I'm pretty sure I redid that because it got in there and kind of shooting too somehow. But this piece, let's see here. This piece here is always turning when the engine is running. You can see it moving right back there behind that. This outer piece that has it's connected with these little strip metal pieces is what is actually connected to the separator part of the machine. And so when you rock that back and forth, you can see those gears up there turning because that's part of the machine, just like that. Okay, next step, take that big bolt out. And for that, we're going to get the big impact. Okay, got the big impact here. And I've shown this before. I forgot something. Okay, now let's see what happens. That didn't take long. If you need something that has lots of power, check out one of these big Ingersoll Rand cordless impacts. 3,000 foot-pounds of breakaway torque. As you can hear, it didn't take much to knock that big bolt loose, just a couple knocks, and it basically free-wheeled itself around. Okay, there's a little tie-down piece right here that holds this wiring harness in. You just gotta get that undone. And then, this piece here comes off the end, just like that. And that right there is part of the armature. When you throw your switch in the cab, it sucks these two pieces, it snaps these two pieces together, just like an electromagnet, and kicks machining gear. And you always just want to take and lay everything out the way you took it off. That goes in there just like that. Okay, and right here is the inside piece. And this part right here is actually the part that is electrified. You can see them two little positive and negative wiring hookups right there. And so if you take these bolts out and let that piece come off, same thing once again, you can see that this has been apart before because somebody has paint sticked that. I don't know if they've, up here where they get the wires, I have to see if I can get it rolled around here in the light. See if they've got it marked for positive and negative or not. It's hard to see. Okay, let's get the bolts out. And right there is where it's rotating on this front piece. And so there should be back behind these spacers. You gotta make sure you get all, keep them actually shims. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So that silver back piece, that's one of your bearings. And if I remember right, there should be one on the front and back side of this. And then there's going to be one clear, well, it's a casting on the side of the wall of the machine holding the entire shaft right here. But yeah, you just got to make sure you keep all these here, all those spacers together. Okay, yeah, those are actually shims. They're different. Some are thicker than others. And so, in fact, actually, that's what, let's see here. That's how you adjust your gap between the electrical side and the magnetic side of your armature. And which is actually what that up there needs. It needs more gap, because it's running so close that it sometimes, even when you kick the thing out of gear, it'll kind of want to grab still. And so whoever rebuilt that back before we bought it didn't get it shimmed properly. And so yeah, just take the shims off and lay them on top of the armature piece, just like they're going to go back on, just like that. Okay, once you get them bolts out right here, you want to take and get these little small screws that hold the, so it actually bolts the wiring to the armature, or connects it. Okay, there's one. Just make sure you mark them. That's red, that's black, and so I just put R and B. Although I can see right there somebody has taken and painted a white mark, and of course white's going to be ground anyway, but I just went ahead and marked the R and B. Don't exactly have much room for your fingers either. There we go. Okay, let's get them two little wires disconnected. Once you get the wires disconnected, this here should pop off there just like that. Okay, there's the front part. Lay it over there. I can actually take and lean it up like that, because that's how it came off. Yeah, you can see somebody painted white marks. That's white's ground, but I just put R and B for red and black. Same thing. Okay, now we still gotta keep digging into it. Now the fun job. Because see, you have a bearing right here, and then on the back side here is another armature. Kind of hard to see back in there. Because, yeah, right there's two more wires. I wish they'd just pull off that shaft, but it's not going to come quite that easy. So, we'll see what we can do here. Okay, I'm still working on trying to figure out how this here comes off. So I got my big service manual out, so I'm going to look through this and hopefully try and get some answers out of that. And yeah, because you got this here, and then trying to get that out of there is easier said than done. Like I say, I've done it on both of our R52. Well, back when we had two R52s, and I'm trying to remember exactly if I cut that bearing out with the torch, or exactly what I did. I don't want to start cutting on anything until I look in the book. But I'll take a look here in the book and see what I can come up with. Been checking things out here, and I looked in my service manual that I have for the combine, and I also called and talked to the Gleaner dealer over by Kokomo, Indiana. And because I've been trying, I couldn't remember. I know on the 52 I had to cut these out with the torch, and so I didn't really want to try and do that. So like I say, my manual said to simply pull on it and pull it off. So I called and talked to the Gleaner guy over there, and he told me they did the same thing. And he said that should pull easier than what you think. He just said make sure the shaft's all good and clean, which, as you can see, it is. And so what I'm going to do, and hopefully I can just pull that whole thing off. Done deal. Now I have that outer part off. So let's see what happens. All right, I got all the arms put in place here. So, well, let's see what happens. Just gotta try and get this pry bar kind of wedged in here. I don't know if I can catch on something or not. Let's see. Hopefully it'll move like the guy at the Agco dealer told me, so we'll find out. He said this is how they do them. I guess I'll find out and see what happens. Hey, there we go. If I can get that up there, there we are. Can't get it caught that way. It's up on top of that shaft. We're coming down across here like this. Put the ratchet onto it. Huh. There it popped. He said it probably wouldn't move as hard as what it looks. In fact, actually, you know what? Let's grab a little bit of juice and hit on that. I think my juice can ran out. Well, that'll work good enough for now. One thing I did learn, however, when I was talking to him, I gave him the serial number. And like I've said before, this is a 2002 machine. And I gave him the serial number, and as soon as I gave him that number, he said, oh, that's one of the late ones made. And come to find out, this here is number 28 from the end of being one of the last R72s built in 2002, because in 2003 they came out with the R75, which was basically all the same. I think it did have about 20 more horsepower, set up pretty much all the same thing. The main difference is the cab. The cab is actually completely different, and also the hydro. They do not have the hydro being run by a belt from this point down. Well, I guess it would actually be the hydro motor is actually mounted up there, and they just run two big oil lines down to the gearbox. And so that eliminates that belt. Okay, well, you know what? That's actually, well, there practically it almost jumped. So that's coming off a lot easier than what I thought. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'll get this puller off. There we go. Now, I can tell you one thing, that is going to be heavy. So, I may take the forklift and get another pallet and come right up underneath that with a pallet. That way I can take that right off onto a pallet. Because now we're at the end of that thing. Okay, there the front bearing is now off. It still has the back bearing holding it. Let me see here. Yeah, that bearing does feel kind of dry. Before I get another pallet with the forklift, let me see here. I was stick the camera right back in here. There we are. Now, you see right there, it actually pulled the back bearing right out of the back of this housing, which is perfect. And so what I'm hoping is once I get this shiv off, is somebody go through the back with a long punch and sledgehammer, and somebody just take and just knock that bearing right out of there, done deal. However, back here in this part, that big cast housing, it's got 4 bolts that hold that big bearing. That one, I'll have to take and cut that one out with the torch, because there's no way to get it on and actually pull it. And so I'm going to have to take and torch that one, but that will actually be tomorrow's project, because when I get ready to start torching, I'm going to run a garden hose over here. That way I have water on hand. In case anything should flame up, I can put it out immediately, because I do not like to run the torch and just up and walk away. And so, in fact, a neighbor of mine told me, he said, whenever you're torching on something, especially like machinery, now naturally, I mean, if you're cutting on something out in the middle of the floor or something like that, and especially if it's just like on like open frame and that kind of stuff, no big deal. But especially cutting on combines and that kind of stuff, he always suggests to, when you're done running the torch, wait around a good 20 minutes just in case anything should flame up. The last thing you want is to have a big fire. And so, but I'm going to get, like I said, I'm just going to take and very carefully back this forklift up and set the pallet down. Get the golf cart moved, and then I'll just come in here like this and I come up underneath there with a pallet and just slide that right off onto the pallet. All right, I got the forklift up here. I got another pallet. Well, let's see, I may need to take and raise up just a little bit more. There we go. I'll raise up just a bit more underneath that. Let's see here now. Okay, there's the big drive shaft. Okay, there's a spacer in there between the outer and inner bearing. In fact, that inner bearing, I'm not too sure how well that one's going to come out of there. Wait and see. Let's raise up a bit more. Okay, I bumped up on it. I can tell you one thing, using this forklift is a whole lot easier. There we go. All right, that's got that. Well, you can definitely tell it's got some weight to it. Of course, it's all cast. So that makes it even heavier. Okay, there's the back of the armature. Right there is where that back bearing seats into. And you know what? You see that line? Same thing. This has been apart before. There we go. Oh yeah, that thing is heavy. I'll be using the forklift to remount it as well. Okay, I'll have to see. I might be able to get my puller and actually hook him in behind that bearing and actually pull that bearing off. There's the spacer, and that is not directional. That appears to be, it doesn't matter which way you put it on, it's just a simple spacer. And so, like I say, now that I am seeing these markings on this, I am going to look in the book, because the previous owner actually wrote down different things that they had done to this machine. And I now do the same thing also. Different things like this and different stuff. I keep paper in the operator's manual and jot down different things I do every year to it. But evidently they must have had trouble with it or something. But it feels like it's that front bearing right there. I can feel it. It feels dry, kind of like a dry wheel bearing. And so we'll get this backed up and lowered down. I'll say one thing, using a forklift to do this job makes it a whole lot easier. Now let's get this thing, oh wow, tip back up and go ahead and lay it face down. That thing is heavy, I'll tell you that much. Okay, good. Yeah, I should be able to just take a punch, knock right through there, and knock that front bearing right out. Let's take a look at this back bearing. Now, just simply spinning it, and I actually don't feel too bad. NTN, okay. I've heard of those bearings. Like I say, I'll see if I can get my puller and pull that bearing off there. Well, I just tried to see if the puller would fit on this, and it doesn't. I cannot get the arms to hook behind that. I don't have enough room. And so, I was taking whack that one off the torch, no big deal there. And so then somehow, I don't know how that goes on, because it's part of a, well, that's loose. Thing is though, let's see. Well, you know what? I get looking at this. I can't hook on this piece here and pull. However, I can see where that's been taken off before. Somebody's went and like kind of sandpapered that. I could take this magnet piece off and then actually pull from that pulley right back there. I don't know how well you can see that. Pull right back here on the back side of that pulley, because it is wiggly. And it's probably spline, just like the outer part is. Well, we'll see what happens here. I'm just going to take these bolts out and take this magnet off, then put my puller on that belt pulley right there. Okay, that's got the last bolt out. All right, there's that armature piece. And we'll just take and set that right down here. Just gotta make sure everything goes back the way it came off, or goes back on the way it came off. Like I say, it looks like, because you can see where somebody has taken like sandpaper and kind of shine that up. And so this has been dug into before. Well, I'm going to grab my puller and we'll hook back here behind that. Okay, I'm getting that puller bolt run out. Well, you know what? I may have to take and extend the arms, drop the arms down one hole. That way I can get clear behind it and pull on it. I'm not going to be able to reach clear back there. Well, we'll get them extended out, and then that should make it fit back behind that belt pulley and work a lot better. I had the arms in the bottom hole, and so I jumped up here to the middle one. And so that should, there we go. In fact, by every indication, that's that hole in the end of this big drive shaft is for, to hook your puller into. Trying to get all these arms hooked on there, trying to like wrestle a snake. They want to go everywhere. Now, I'm not going to use an impact to actually hammer on that. I just use it, however, to snug it up. Okay, that's got the... Okay, now we're good and tight. I'm going to get a wrench, that way I can pull easily. But like I say, I could wiggle that, and I should be able to take and just pull that bearing right off just like I did the other one. Well, just like when I pulled the pulley and it brought the outside bearing with it. Let's start pulling out and see what happens. Okay, that works. The bearing is moving out on the shaft, which means the pulley is bringing the bearing with it. So that's exactly what I want. And like I say, that back bearing right there, that one don't feel too bad, which kind of makes me wonder if it wasn't the outside bearing that was going out. Okay, now there it got real loose. I wonder if there's a possible step down in the shaft and acts like it. Okay, well that works also. Yeah, there we go. I'm moving with my fingers. Okay, same thing right there. You have shims. Make sure you keep those as is, and especially do not let these get mixed up with the ones that go on the front of the thing. Like I say, just keep them all together like that, then just put it all right back together the way you took it back off, because otherwise it can screw your clutch all up. Let me tell you something, you don't want to be taking this thing all back apart again to re-shim it once you put it back together. So just put it all back on the way you took it off, and that'll do it. Okay, now that bearing kind of comes out right there, and I'm not sure it's hitting on something. Oh, I see. There's like a crud line, right? Just like some cruddy, like some rusty stuff right there. Now I'll get a little emery paper and clean that up good. And that should let it pop off. And so once we get that off, we'll be ready to get back to the big main one back here on the back. I took a little emery paper and just cleaned that little rust line off right there. So that got the bearing popped off. And of course you got these shims that go in between this and your bearing. That comes off, and there is what it looks like on the back. It's splined. And there's also a spacer right there. You can see it. Well, unless that's a, that could be a collar part of the bearing itself. I'll find out here. Let me show you here what I found. I thought that was like a little collar piece, a spacer collar you take off. Here's the new bearing. That's actually part of it. However, I did find that it's got an extended piece on the back, which will be on the back side. And now I've got to find out how, for one thing, you set those, or pinch those set screws down. And, because once you get this bolted back up on here, I don't know if there's some kind of access to go inside, or maybe I can go up behind here through that hole, well, up behind, in front of the fan. And so I'm going to have to do a little more research and see what I can find out. But tell you what, I'm going to call this an end to part 2. And so thanks for watching. So stick around for part 3. We'll see you next time.